Well, good morning again. I'm glad that you stayed for the town hall. I'm glad that you stayed if you're watching online for our town hall. We started these because we want to make sure that we are communicating as well as possible. And so this is just another way. This is just another way that we can communicate information that the congregation needs to hear. And so I'm glad that you are here. Glad that you decided to take some time to do this. I need to mute my computer because I'm hearing my annoying voice on the on my computer. And all right, so a couple of things. I want to make sure that I share information with you. I also want to make sure that you have an opportunity for question and response. So. We're just going to start right with it, with our user groups. 2 years ago, the church council made a goal to increase the outside usage of the church by 15%. And we thought, this is what is going to help us. This is what's going to help us grow. We have a building, and so you might have heard the term asset mapping before. Asset mapping is you take stock of all of the things that you have, and what are the best things that you have. And one of the things that we identified was we have a great building. And so the church council set a goal to have increased use of our building by 15%. At the time, we were receiving about $4,000 a year in usage fees from the outside groups. We have increased the usage of the church by 550%. So we hit that 15% goal since then. And this year, in 2025, we will have increased the usage of the church by 1,525%. I didn't even know that was a number. Now, primarily the reason why we're getting those inflated numbers is because of the daycare. Little Steps Daycare has moved in to our facility. It's going well. Are there screaming children right outside of my door, my office door? Yes, there are. But as I say to the folks at Little Steps, I would so much rather have that than silence. Because silence in a church is never good. It's never a good thing. And so I couldn't be more proud of the church council for their work. Right now, the outside groups that are using the building are AA, NA, OA, TOPS, which is a weight loss program. There are a couple of acting classes. There is the Global Nepalese Church. There is the House of Grace Church, and there is Little Steps. Phenomenal. I mean, it is phenomenal. You can't walk in this building without seeing a group using this building. It's one of the best parts about us, so why wouldn't we use it? The Little Steps negotiation was long and difficult. I learned how to pronounce indemnification. And I heard from lawyers and stuff. And when a pastor and a lawyer have to talk, I mean, it's serious, right? It was long and difficult, but we were able to come to an agreement. They have currently a 4-year lease, and we fully anticipate that this is Little Steps' home. This is their home for the foreseeable future. Survey after survey, we were told that affordable quality childcare was a need in Lemoyne. It was a need for our community. We couldn't do it on our own. I looked into it. I was like, wouldn't it be great if we could have our own daycare? If I thought I needed to learn how to pronounce indemnification, There was a lot more to it than that. So we couldn't do it on our own. So what did we do? We partnered with a group who is doing it. We need affordable, quality childcare. Little Steps has been in business for 30 years. They are affordable and they are quality. So we partnered with somebody who's already doing this in our community. We can't do everything, but we can do something. The same, I would say, happened with the Nepalese church and the Spanish church. How many Nepalese refugees are walking into our service on a Sunday morning saying, hey, this is where I want to worship? I didn't see any. And so when the pastor of a Nepalese church came to me and said, hey, we've got a Nepalese church. There is a population of this community that's missing. Well, I want them here. I want them here. And so we couldn't do it on our own. I don't know how to preach the gospel to Nepalese refugees. I don't know how to do it. But Pastor Bishan does. And so we partnered with an organization that is doing that. Same with the Spanish-speaking House of Grace Church. They are reaching a population that we don't see in our pews on a Sunday morning. We couldn't do it on our own, and so we partnered with them. We are a community church. That was the goal when I came here on July 1st, 2013. Nope, that was Altoona. 2017. The goal when I came here on July 1st, 2017 was we need to be a community church. And the reason why we needed to be a community church is because this is the ultimate spot for ministry. It's the ultimate spot because, yeah, there's like industry ahead of us. But Herman, Hummel, and Bossler, there's nothing but houses. And you know who lives in houses? People. People live in houses. And so we needed to be a community church. We couldn't do everything on our own. And so we partnered with people who are doing good in the world. These people who are building the kind of community that we want to see. And I'm telling you, it's awesome. It's great. Not only do we get to have the reputation of a community church who cares about this community, who's a important part of this community, we also get rental revenue as a result of it. And so it is a win-win situation. So that's a bit about the outside groups. We'll go to the financial situation of the church. I handed out some detailed and some not detailed reports about the financial state of the church. Here's what I'm going to say about the financial state of the church. It can be summed up in this. It's not great. It's not great. It's also not dire. We got in 2024, we got about $34,000 from the employee retention credit. We're expecting one more check, but we have not received it. So I don't know what the status of that is. We also received an unexpected $14,000 from a memorial that was closing out. So of course, that was hugely helpful, of course. This year, we are anticipating about $45,000 more in rental income. So we hope that will kind of make square our loss of the employee retention credit, because that was a one-time deal, and the memorial that was closed out. So it still doesn't make us square. The goal for a church, in my estimation, is not to turn a profit. We don't want to turn a profit. The goal, from my perspective, is to be as close to zero as possible. So that's our goal. We're hoping that the rental income will get us a little bit closer to that. This church is very, very generous. However, it is absolutely true that we need to continue to grow our congregation and grow our generosity in order to be in good financial shape. Right now, we're not great. We're not dire at this time. I mean, as you can see from the report. In addition to our budgeted operations, we do have special funds of approximately $550,000. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hooray, all of our problems are solved. Not so fast. Much of our special funds are designated for specific use, which means we can't easily get at them. So we don't want to get at them either, except for big things that cause good ministry to happen or that allow ministry to continue. Then we'll get at those if needed. Of the $550,000 in special funds, about $110,000 of that is designated for the building fund. Very aptly named, it can only be used for things that have to do with the building. There's $72,000 in a music endowment that can only be used for specific music things. There's $13,000 in the kitchen fund. There's $18,000 in the organ fund. And there's $257,000 in a general endowment that can be used in extreme circumstances with the permission of the church council and the charge conference, which is everybody. A church conference would have to be called in order to use those funds. That's a lot of information. Are there any questions so far? There's a few more items that I want to cover, but I want to make sure, since that's the bulk of it, honestly, I want to make sure that if there are any questions that we can either answer them today or wait to get a response.
So this is on assessing the rent to charge to folks that rent our building. Do we do a market survey? Do we see what other churches are charging and so on? And again, I'm not trying to gouge these groups.
Of course.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious how we set the rate.
Yeah, great question. So we worked with the church for the daycare specifically. Actually, for all of the groups, we worked with where they were coming from, the situation that they were coming from, and we used that as a starting negotiation. And so, does anybody on the council know if this number is absolutely correct? The daycare is paying 35, nope. 37, 33, right?
37, somewhere around there for the first 2 years.
That's right.
38 something the second 2 years.
That's right. So it's just over 3,700 for the first 2 years of this lease, and then it goes up 2% to 38, whatever it is, for the second 2 years. So the negotiation started with where they were. What were you paying? And then there was a slight increase because there's more space here. Any other questions about? Yeah. A comment?
So, because I'm married to somebody on the church council, sometimes we have these conversations at home. And I said to Tony, because things are why don't we pass the offering plate? We stopped doing that because of COVID. And sometimes I think out of sight, out of mind, if it's back there in the back, but if somebody's passing a plate to me, we give online, but if I was sitting here in church, I probably would be, now granted, it's not gonna be a huge amount of money, but I would be apt to throw money in the plate because it's coming past me and I'd feel really guilty if I didn't. You know what I'm saying? But I wonder if maybe some of our giving isn't reduced because we don't pass the plate anymore. Just hypothetical question.
Yeah, and I don't think when we're everything's on the table, right? I mean, so I wouldn't commit to either way right here, right now, but I think it's certainly something that we can talk about and think about pros and cons of doing that. So yeah, thank you.
The special funds that you closed out, was that the one that give like $6,000 to Mama Arlene, and who was the other one?
The other one from special funds was Carmel Ministries in India.
Okay. Is that on here?
That is not. So the special funds do not appear on that report at all. That's a separate report that you can absolutely have, but those were from special funds, so they do not appear on that.
And that fund was closed out? Is that the one that was closed out?
Yes. So that was a former Nebel Hummel fund,
Okay.
and that's what was closed out.
Okay. Mama Arlene's, when she was talking online and stuff, said she got $4,000 for the building, but we said we give her $6,000.
We said 6,000 to India, and then the rest to Mama Arlene.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 6 and 6. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
How does the daycare affect our janitorial?
Great question. How does the daycare affect our janitorial work? Mostly positively, because the daycare is responsible for their sections. They're responsible for keeping those areas clean. Where it does cause heartache is there's people in the building all the time. And so if Tom needs to get to two places, that could be a bit of a hardship. The other thing is, not only with our daycare, but with everything that's happening, there's a lot more times that rooms need to be set up. And that's a constantly evolving thing. So, there's a bunch of different options for that, including saying to groups, hey, you got to set up your own room on certain occasions. So it's a moving target, but for the big things, the biggest thing that I was worried about, they're responsible for cleaning their rooms.
And they supply their own paper goods, and they take out the trash every day.
They supply their own paper goods. They take out the trash every day. I'm glad you brought that up because that dumpster is working overtime. There's a lot of diapers in that dumpster.
Is there anybody that visits from our church, our congregation, or you? Is there anybody that visits the daycare towards the time when the parents are coming, that we could interact and maybe draw some new members from there?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I have been working with the daycare about. I am to do the real walkthrough this week, and so I've been looking forward to that. Doing the official walkthrough, I see them every day, of course, but doing the official walkthrough, we've talked about doing some chapel time with the kids only, during the day, about once a month, and there's definitely some thought about interacting with parents, mostly on drop-offs, but because pickups start at 2:30 and go from 6 until 6 o'clock, so that's a little bit less of an exact science, but drop-offs. There are many who get dropped off by a school bus and after school. And so obviously we can't interact with them. But yes, that is absolutely a part of the plan. Good thought.
I believe you said that our endowments are 257,000.
I think that's right. I'll go
Okay.
check that.
The return we got there, $7,000, is extremely low for that amount of money. Are the endowments still held by the conference?
The endowments are in the United Methodist Foundation, which merged, Susquehanna Conference merged with Western Pennsylvania. And so, yes, they are together. However, that $7,000 is what we were given. There are additional interests that went back into the principal. Was it 4 years ago-ish? 4 years ago, we signed an agreement with the conference to disperse 4% of one of our funds to us every year. Anything above 4% goes back into the principal and is reinvested.
So are our endowments from our church growing in value?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Very much so. In fact, over the last 2 years, I guess.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, thank you for that, for bringing that up. So we take 4% out, but the rest is reinvested.
I didn't know if you were going to address this or not, but with the finances, I just wanted to share how much money we have spent in repairs over the past 2-3 years. We had a plumbing issue, emergency kind of, a couple weeks, a month or so ago.
Right after Christmas.
Yeah. That cost several $1,000s, which was just a Band-Aid. We have an upcoming $16,000 plumbing expense that we're going to have to incur because the pastor's basement has to be entirely ripped up and have pipes run because some are cracked. They're not leaking terribly right now, but it's something we can't let go. We have the roof that we need to fix that we're still trying to figure out what kind of shingles, what's going to work, who can do it because of how we're located here. A lot of companies won't come in, they can't get their equipment, the pitch of our roof. So we have been working on that for over a year. So there's just a lot going on with the building that is wear and tear from over the years that we have to fix, or, we'll be in trouble. It will affect our building. So I just wanted everyone to know that we've had a lot of repairs that have come up unexpectedly. So.
Yeah, for sure. There's, we're working on it. Working on keeping this a great building. Any other questions for right now? There'll be another opportunity. I promise there'll be another opportunity to ask some more questions. But there's a few other things that I want to make sure that we go over. We talked about the roof. Do you want me to expand about the roof? It's leaking. It's leaking. Right now we have a slate roof. A slate roof has a lifespan of approximately 90 to 100 years. Do you know how old our building is? I think it's 92 years old. So obviously we've done well. We've done well with a slate roof. And so when you're meh, everything is on the table. And so we're trying to figure out, is a slate roof the best use of the funds that we have? every dollar that we spend at Grace Church is a donated dollar. And so we want to be sure that we do the best we can do with the donations, the tithes and the offerings that come into this church. So that's a bit more about the roof. I wanted to talk to you a bit about volunteer opportunities. We have plenty. We have plenty. Family Promise, we used to host Family Promise, and now we can't anymore because for some reason the families don't want to sleep in a room that's being torn apart by toddlers. And so we don't host Family Promise anymore. However, Family Promise is still a viable and wonderful ministry that could use volunteers. And so please, by all means, get in touch with us if you are able to volunteer with Family Promise. They are still a community partner. They actually have their board meetings here at Grace. So they're still a community partner. They're still a great organization. The Clothing Shed, I've been so pleased with the Clothing Shed. Many thanks to Allison Strack and Chick Zoll for taking the lead on the Clothing Shed. I have to tell you, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit this, but I'm going to. I didn't realize that the need was so great. I didn't even realize that here in Lemoyne, the need for clothing would be so great. But it is. They stock and restock the shed constantly. So if you're able to volunteer for that, New Hope Ministries does wonderful work here on the West Shore. They're just on Bossler in the 700 block, and so they are constantly in need of volunteers. There's things that we need here at the church that we need people power to do. And so I would definitely encourage you to get in touch with our church office or me and say, hey, I might be able to do some of these things. One of the things that we need this is a specific ask. One of the things that we need someone to help us with our annual church audit. I know that sounds a little bit too exciting. But the annual church audit is basically reconciling all of the bank accounts of the church. I will fully admit that I don't know how to do it. And so, well, I'm not allowed to do it either, but I don't know how to do it. So if you come to me and say, hey, Jason, I'll do it. How do I do it? I'll say, but we'll learn together. We'll learn together how to do it. Also, Lee Zoll did the audit for many years, and I am certain that if I said to Lee, I need your help, I'm sure that she would say yes, and she would help us figure out how to do it as well. So that is a specific ask. The audit is due on March 15th, because beware the Ides of March. Why would I say that? That's such a dated reference. Why? Julius Caesar was killed 2,000 years ago. Haven't we gotten over it yet? So that's a specific ask. That's a specific ask for a volunteer to help us with the church audit. The church van. Last year we got a church van, and we were thrilled to have the church van take the McCurdy mission team to Baltimore Washington Airport. It was great for that. It was awesome. But it's hard to justify having a church van for a once-a-year mission trip to the airport. And so I come to you saying, hey, what else can we do? What else can we do with this church van? We've heard that it would be really nice to make a circuit on a Sunday morning and pick up people who are not able to get here to church. I think that's an awesome idea. I love that idea. You know what we need in order to do that? A driver. Drivers to do it. And so, what other things? Another thing that we thought about was we had this concept a while ago, this was maybe even pre-COVID, about the Jesus van. And the Jesus van exists to do all kinds of things. You book the Jesus van to take you to a doctor's appointment, or you book the Jesus van to take you grocery shopping, or you book the Jesus van to bring you home after you had a little bit too much to drink. And so there were all of these ideas about that, these are great ideas. You know what we need? We need a driver. Somebody needs to drive the Jesus van. And so, let me be very clear in saying that we want to hear from you. We want, if you have ideas, if you're like, man, why don't we do this? Well, we're not gonna do it unless you tell us. Not to say that if you say, hey, I've got a great idea, we should paint all of the church doors blue. Not to say that we're gonna do everything, not to say that we're able to do everything, but we do want to hear from the congregation. We want this to be an open dialogue. So there is the permission. There's the permission. Email the church office, email me directly. We want to hear from you. I promise we want to hear from you. I also promise, because this isn't like an enormous organization. It's not like you're emailing Amazon customer service. We promise that we're going to read them and consider everything. We're not going to just leave everything in an inbox somewhere unread. We want to hear from you. The church council and I are planning a day-long kind of visioning process in March, just dreaming what's next for us. What do we do next? Because one of the most wonderful things happened at our last church council meeting. Somebody was talking about all of the things that are happening at Grace Church, and I'm so excited about what's happening here. I love what's happening here. And they were talking about all of the things that are happening, and they said, well, all this talk about community church. And she said, and mission accomplished. And I was like, yeah, but what's next? Like, if the community church thing is mission accomplished, then what's next? And so we're going to talk about that with the church council, and I are going to talk about that in March, because we can't stop. We haven't arrived as a church. I can't stand up here and say, good news, Grace Church. We're all done. We won Christianity. I can't say that. So what's next? Let's do it. Let's keep going. And so we've got some ideas about dreaming about what's next. Also dreaming about a possible church-wide retreat in the fall. We've got retreat facilities at Wesley Forest that are nice. They're not as nice as Mount Asbury. I'm going to say that up front. They're not as nice as Mount Asbury, but they're really great. There's great retreat facilities at Wesley Forest that we can use for a church-wide retreat to do some spiritual work, but also to dream about what's next, to dream about what we can do together. Think about where we were after COVID. It was a rough time, and look at where we are now. It's awesome, and you have done it. You've done that work. And so the question, of course, is what's next? How do we keep sharing the love and grace and mercy of Jesus Christ to this community and beyond. So we'll talk about that, and I want to hear about that from you. I want to make sure that we have some time for questions, questions and comments. If you are watching online, we do have, assuming the technology works, I've got this up and running, and would welcome you to ask questions or make comments as well if you're watching online. Are there, one question just came in from online. Is a CDL license involved with driving the church van? Nope. It is a 15-passenger van that actually only has 12 seats right now. So it's a 12-passenger van in reality. So no CDL is required. A standard driver's license is all that's needed for the church van. The church carries liability and vehicle insurance on the vehicle as well. Are there any questions? Are there any comments that you want to make sure we discuss here?
So you do a lot of good things, Jason, with the conference, and you go places. And I remember last year you went to a gun violence seminar down in Washington, D.C. And I think it's great you're going and doing these things. And a lot of times you'll tell us how things went, if there's a retreat or weekend here or that. But I was specifically interested, like the gun violence thing. I didn't hear back, whether there was a resolution or there was a consensus or thing. So when you go off and do these great things, which I applaud, if you can just, put it in our weekly printout or on our Facebook page or something, what was talked about and what the outcome was, and what the way ahead could be. Thank you.
Absolutely, that is great feedback, and I'll have an opportunity to do it because I'll be heading back to DC in March for a gun violence prevention conference, meeting with Senator McCormick and Senator Fetterman about the issue. So thank you, Ben. I will be sure to include that. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
For the driving the van, would there be any background checks and stuff like that that's required to drive it? Like when you work with the children, you
Right.
have to go through all that. So just wondering about that.
Yeah, I think we would have to see who our clientele is. Obviously, if it was children and youth, for sure. But another part of Safe Sanctuaries is vulnerable adults. And so while my initial thought was no, probably not, my revised answer is probably. There are pretty easy ways that you can get Safe Sanctuary certified with the church and by extension with the conference. That includes an online training and 2 background checks, and if you've been a resident of Pennsylvania for the past 10 years, a notarized affidavit, which I'm a notary, so I can notarize your affidavit. I even have a little stamp. So I can do that part of it. It's very, very easy. We have instructions on the website to do it. You can come into the church and do it. They can call Leslie. She's helped many do that as well. So good question. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I'm going to make sure, I'm just going to check online to make sure to see if any other comments have come in. Let me say that this is the Doris says, I would be willing to help anyone with the audit, but I can't do it because of a conflict of interest. And the reason why she can't do it is Doris Dix is the treasurer of our special funds. And so, nope, can't do that. But Doris is a banking professional. So she knows what she's doing as well, and so she has offered her help in helping us with the audit as well. Are there any other comments, questions? Thanks. Yeah, Emily said this was good. This was nice. Yeah, we want to do this. We want to do this quarterly, just so you know what's happening and know what's going on. Let this be the takeaway. We want to hear from you. We are looking for the congregation to be involved and to be in communication with us, with the church council. We don't want to just kind of rule from the ivory tower. So we want to hear from you. Oh, sure. Yeah, if you're on the church council, would you stand so that others can see who you are? And just keep standing, because I want to make sure that Frank is able. Yep, he's got it. He's all over it. Just want to make sure that Frank was able to get a shot of those who are standing for the people online. Whoever started the applause, you are so right to do that. I've been involved in churches for a long time, and I promise you this, I promise you I'm telling you the truth, when I say that this group, this church council, is the most functional church council I have ever been a part of. It's not particularly close. They care deeply about this facility. They care deeply about this congregation. They care deeply about this community. I couldn't be more proud of the church council, and you should be too, because this is an incredible, incredible group of people. So thank you, church council. And thank you for the work that you are doing. Thanks for the work that we're going to continue to do together, because we haven't won Christianity, and so there's still work to do. So, any other questions or comments before we close? Let's close in prayer. God, we are so thankful for this day. We are so thankful for this church. God, a church doesn't mean anything if it doesn't have an impact on its community. And so, I am so thankful for the incredible impact that Grace Church has on its community. Thank you for the people who are here and the people who are not. Thank you for those who have not yet walked through this door. They need to know of your grace and your love and your mercy. And God, if we are the people to do it, so be it. Thank you for the church council and for their servant hearts and their servant leadership. Continue to lead us, continue to guide us, so that others will know of your grace, your love, and your mercy. I give you thanks and praise in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all for coming here, and thank you for watching online. We'll do it again next quarter.